Celtic Myths and Legends by T.W. Rolleston, Chapter 6, Tales of the Ossianic Cycle. Oisin's Return. The story goes on to tell how Oisin met with various adventures in the Land of Youth, including the rescue of an imprisoned princess from a Fomorian giant. But at last, after what seemed to him a sojourn of 3 weeks in the Land of Youth, he was satiated with delights of every kind, and longed to visit his native land again, and to see his old comrades. He promised to return when he had done so, and Niam gave him the white fairy steed that had borne him across the sea to Fairyland, but charged him that when he had reached the land of Erin, again he must never alight from its back, nor touch the soil of the earthly world with his foot, or the way of return to the land of youth would be barred to him forever. Oisin then set forth, and once more crossed the mystic ocean, finding himself at last on the western shores of Ireland. Here he made at once for the hill of Allen, where the dune of Finn was wont to be, but marvelled as he traversed the woods that he met no sign with the Fionn hunters, and that at the small size of the folk to whom he saw tilling the ground, at length coming from the forest path into the great clearing where the hill of Allen was wont to rise, broad and green, with its rampart enclosing many white-walled dwellings, and the great hall towering high in the midst, he saw but grassy mounds overgrown with rank weeds and whin bushes, and among them pastured a peasant's kine. Then a strange horror fell upon him, and he thought that some enchantment from the land of Faery held his eyes and mocked him with false visions. He threw his arms abroad and shouted the names of Finn and Oscar, but none replied, and he thought that perchance the hounds might hear him. So he cried upon Bran and Scalaun, and strained his ears if they might catch the faintest rustle or whisper of the word, from the sight of which his eyes were holden, but he heard only the sighing of the wind in the winds. And there he rode in terror from that place, setting his face towards the eastern sea, for he meant to traverse Ireland from side to side and end to end in search of some escape from his enchantment. And, okay, you must cross the psychic seas, yes. You must, something is needed to bring you from psychedelics to a spiritual experience. But when we get there, whether this is by some result of choice or occultism or however you want to phrase that, we got to make sure to not, to do what we can to avoid from the confusion of saying that these things are physical manifestations of the spirits and their realms. Maybe they overlap us, but let's not forget that they go beyond this. And sometimes there are terms of whatever spiritual relationships we are part of that have to be indulged to continue.